Today we're going to talk about child's pose. Child's pose is a very restorative pose. It's a classic yoga pose. But if you get too deep into this pose, it can actually cause some issues, depending on what your history is. So one of the things that I really want to emphasize in sharing some of this information with you is that we have to know our own body. We have to know our own history and understand how our body works in order to be able to navigate the practice of yoga with safety. So as you can see, Kristen is here, and when she is preparing to go into child's pose, you can see that her knee here is in flexion. So it's really, really bent and squeezed together here. And the knee joint is meant to bend for sure. It's meant to be able to bring your heels basically to your butt. But if you've had some sort of knee injury where you've had a meniscus irritation or some sort of torque to your knee, when you bend your knee to this position, it actually can compress that and irritate that. And if you're on the verge of having something like that, maybe you have something inside your knee, some arthritis or some things, this can put a lot of pressure on your knees. And I've actually treated quite a few people that have been in child's pose and have had an instructor or a teacher do some sort of overpressure to push on their spine or push on their back to get them deeper into the pose, and had torn their meniscus in their knees. So Kristen, why don't you go ahead and spread open your legs a little bit too. And in this open, wide-legged child's pose too, you're getting even more knee flexion because the hips are lowering down and you had a little bit of a torque and an angle. So if this is an area of your body that is susceptible to injury, you would want to be cautious about this. So how would you know? How would you know if you're susceptible to this kind of thing? If you go into this position and you feel a compression in your knees inside the joint itself, different than a stretch in you might feel a stretch in your hamstring or your glute. That's different. That's good. That's fine. But if you feel pressure in your knee building up, or you feel any kind of pinching in your knee, that's a no-no. So simple modification, go ahead and come back out, would be to use a blanket and to put the blanket in between your knees, your thighs, and your calves. So if you do that, you can see it just opens up that angle of the knee a little bit. And you can play around with the position of it to find something that's comfortable. But this just takes you out of that deep knee bend, which can, again, irritate that meniscus joint. And you can still have this nice restorative pose. You can even place a block on your forehead, and that can also help you stay in a restorative place. So the idea here that I just want to communicate is that we really want to protect our knee joint, and going into a deep, deep knee flexion can cause some issues. So I hope that that's helpful, and I hope that helps you to continue to stay on your mat and stay on your flow and not get injured in yoga.